With the help of at least 2 people, lift the small roof assembly over the back side of the fort. Make sure it's in place with the roof spacer assembly flush to the top and outside edges of the F transom and B transom. Use 2 wood screws to attach the assembly to the F transom and repeat to secure it to the B transom. Use a measuring tape to ensure the small roof assembly overhangs the gable angle support assembly by 1 inch. Next, measure 5 inches up from the end of the panel and mark a spot 3/4 of an inch in from the edge. Pre-drill a hole before inserting a wood screw to attach the small roof assembly to the gable angle support assembly. Measure 5 inches down from the peak and 3/4 of an inch in. Pre-drill before installing a wood screw. Repeat those steps to secure the other side of the small roof assembly to the gable angle support. With some assistance, lift the large roof assembly into place. It should sit on top of the roof support assembly on one side and the roof spacer assembly on the other. Measure to make sure the roof support assembly overhangs by 1¼ inches. Then attach the large roof assembly using 4 wood screws per side in the factory drilled holes. Place a crow's nest side along the inside edge of the narrow window panel. It should be tight to the floor and one end should be flush to the inside edge of the panel post. Using the pilot holes on the lower edge to guide you, fasten the crow's nest side in place with 3 wood screws. Repeat those steps to attach a second crow's nest side to the cafe chalk wall window panel. Position 4 crow's nest joists an equal distance apart and tight against the crow's nest front. Fasten each joist using 2 wood screws. Repeat those steps to connect the crow's nest back. Now move the assembly into place between the crow's nest sides, making sure the crow's nest back is facing towards the fort. Check to make sure the assembly is flush to the front and bottom of the crow's nest sides. Then fasten it in place using 3 wood screws per side. Hammer a T-nut into the pre-drilled hole on each of the crow's nest uprights. Position the upright so that the notched ends are facing out. Now move the crow's nest SL top into place at the other end. When the holes are aligned, fasten the boards loosely with hex bolts. Flip the assembly over and place the crow's nest short over the SL top. It should fit between the uprights. Check to make sure it's flush on both sides. Then attach the crow's nest short using 6 wood screws. With some help, lift the assembly into place behind the crow's nest front. When the pre-drilled holes on each of the uprights are in line with the holes on the upright front, fasten them in place using hex bolts. Now tighten all of the bolts on the assembly. Check to make sure the frame is level. Next, move a crow's nest gusset into place on the outer side of one of the 2 interior joists. After adjusting the gusset so that it's flush at both the top and bottom, secure it in place with a pan screw. Repeat those steps to install the second crow's nest gusset. Then attach both of them to the front of the frame using 2 wood screws each. Measure 9 3/4 inches from the inside edge of the front floor. Use 2 wood screws to attach the SL half panel to the crow's nest gusset positioned on the other side. Now measure 13 3/8 inches from the first screw. Use 2 more wood screws to fasten the SL half panel and the second gusset. Place the crow's nest gap so that it's flush to the front edge of the crow's nest front. The crow's nest floor is next, and it should be flush to the back edge of the crow's nest back. Place 2 crow's nest floorboards in between, and then secure all the boards using 6 wood screws per board. Place a crow's nest face on the front of each crow's nest upright. When it's flush to the outside edges, attach the boards together from inside the fort using 3 wood screws per board. Move the crow's nest wall into place. At the bottom, it fits between the crow's nest side and crow's nest upright. Make sure it's flush to the front of the crow's nest face and the floorboards at the bottom. Secure the crow's nest wall in place first from the outside with wood screws through the 2 pre-drilled holes on the crow's nest side, and then from the inside with 1 wood screw through the base of the crow's nest wall into the crow's nest side. Insert 3 more wood screws along the side of the crow's nest wall. Repeat those steps to install the second crow's nest wall on the other side. Position the crow's nest side so that it's flush with the front and top of the crow's nest SL top. Then fasten it from the outside using 3 wood screws. Follow the same steps to attach the second crow's nest side. Place 2 wall boards in the space between the crow's nest wall and the cafe chalk wall window panel. Make sure they're evenly spaced and the beveled edge is on the top and facing out. Fasten them in place using 4 wood screws per board. Now repeat the process on the other side, in the space between the narrow window panel and the crow's nest wall. Insert T-nuts into the 2 pre-drilled holes along the bottom edge of the SW wall. Place the heavy T-bracket on the top face of the SW wall, then attach it with 2 wafer bolts. Push one end of a hex bolt through the hole at the top of the engineered SW beam. On the other side, attach a heavy-duty swing hanger with the appropriate hardware. Now add a second bolt to secure the hanger. Repeat those steps until all 6 heavy-duty swing hangers are in place. Then make sure the bolts are tightened well. Attach 1 quick clip to each heavy-duty swing hanger. Next, place a T-nut in 4 pre-drilled holes along the side of the beam. It's important to leave the hole nearest the swing side empty. Turn the beam over and install wafer bolts in the 4 holes with T-nuts. Place the SW block angle on the block SW, then position 2 heavy L brackets on top so that hex bolts can be inserted. Attach the bolts loosely on the bottom. Next, hammer 3 T-nuts into place on each SW post. Insert 3 wafer bolts on the other side and tighten them appropriately. It's important to install all 6 of the wafer bolts. Now position the block assembly between the 2 SW posts. Make sure the heavy L brackets are pointing away from the posts. Place a heavy G bracket on the top SW post and attach it loosely with the appropriate hex bolt and lock nut configuration. Place the cedar summit plaque along the front side of the engineered SW beam. Make sure it's centered, then attach it using 4 wood screws. With at least 2 people helping, move the fort side of the engineered SW beam into place on the heavy T-bracket. Use the correct hex bolts and tighten. Place the other end of the engineered SW beam between the heavy L brackets on the block and swing post assembly. Use the proper hex bolt to attach them loosely in place. Add another hex bolt to connect the bottom of the engineered SW beam to the heavy G bracket. With some help, make adjustments to the placement of the SW posts so that the engineered SW beam is level. Use a tape measure to confirm the beam is 85 inches above the ground. Next, add the support cross so that it's on the inside of one SW post and the outside of the other. When you've confirmed the support cross is level, fasten it in place using one lag screw per side, then tighten. It's important to place a T-nut into the hole at the center of the support cross. Insert a wafer bolt in the other side and tighten. Tighten all of the bolts connecting the engineered SW beam, the block assembly, and the SW posts. Next, drill pilot holes into the block assembly through the holes near the top of each SW post. Install lag screws in each hole and make sure they're tightly in place. Now pre-drill a hole into the bottom of the engineered SW beam through the remaining hole in the heavy G bracket. Insert a lag screw there too.